All right, so let's get into the focus round.
Okay.
Focus. We'll start with F, fun. What does Sean DeMartell do for fun?
My favorite hobby in the world is backpacking in mountains and national parks. So when I say backpacking, by the way, if you're listening to this, I put on, fill my pack with my food, my shelter, everything that I need. And I like going for like 4 or 5 days, for example, in Yosemite National Park or something like that, through the mountains on these crazy badass trails with amazing views. That's like, I love doing it because I feel like I reset. I get away from society.
You have the water
Just be in
filter?
nature. Yeah, dude. I got this water filter. It's like a bag that you fill up, and then it has a special filter. You squeeze the water through that, and it takes out all of the, microbes and bacteria and stuff like that. And
Love it.
So I drink from lakes and streams, straight up.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it, dude.
So when I hiked, I took the kids to Yosemite actually like 2 years ago during COVID.
Mhm.
And we hiked up to the Nevada Falls on the way to Half Dome. And there were some cats that were up there and they were doing that. And they'd been out there for a week, dude.
Yeah.
And they had these super sweet water filters where essentially you put the water in and they just drank it. And I was like, that's crazy. Cooked all their food, no showers. They kind of just, washed in the water or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, that's your thing.
Yeah, that's my thing. People always, ask about that. So like showers, like there's a couple ways around that. Like I'll bring like wilderness wipes. It's basically like baby wipes, and like you can get your hot spots with that. But for the most part, like there's so many lakes. I'll jump in the lakes, wash around, kind of wash my body off, and then hit myself with those baby wipes and like pits and stuff, and I'm fine.
Golden.
Yeah, dude.
And you're out there.
Yeah, then you dig a
Connected
hole.
with Mother Earth again.
You got to dig a hole and take a poop in it, and then fill the hole back up. It's fun.
Love it. Gotta keep moving though, because the animals will come around that night, dude. All right, that's awesome. So sports,
So sports, I love sports. I love doing Padre games and stuff like that. I used to play baseball when I was younger.
Pods.
Yeah, go Pods. But, that's the only sport I ever played.
Where are you from?
Originally?
Originally?
Louisville, Kentucky. We didn't have any pro teams.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
But baseball's a big thing there.
I wouldn't say it's a huge thing. Basketball is bigger there. College basketball is like the state sport, basically. But, played a little bit of basketball, but I just love baseball.
Slower than California.
Yeah, it's a lot slower than California. It's a completely different culture, but it's still cool in its own way, man. Like, it's beautiful there. It's like just straight wilderness and jungle, basically. So I love it. I grew up fishing, bass fishing and stuff like that. That's
On it
one of my big
too. So you're an
hobbies.
outdoor guy.
I'm an outdoor guy.
Skiing,
Yes.
snowboard,
Through and through. Snowboard.
snowboard.
Yeah.
You go to the local mountains here. Big Bear,
Yeah,
Mammoth,
Big
Tahoe.
Bear, Mammoth. I haven't actually been to Tahoe yet. I've just done Big Bear and Mammoth. I've done Park City. I did Park City last year. That was pretty cool. But I don't go a ton.
Sean is a GP, a capital raiser, an operator, now a developer. He's raised millions and millions of dollars for syndications and has a very large network and is extremely experienced in the space. And as I mentioned before, an absolute go-getter. So let's talk about opportunity. The name of your company is
Takeoff Capital.
Take Off Capital. You can find it at takeoffcapital.com.
.com.
That will be in the description as well. Opportunity. So tell me one opportunity that you've had so far in your career, Sean, that's been an absolute game changer for you. Looking back at your health,
35.
so 35, looking back on your years in the biz and in life, hey, this one thing kind of just, I'm glad that thing happened.
Man, 2 things actually come to mind, so I'm going to break the rules and give 2 things. The first thing was getting connected with my mentor, Tony Azar. It's a company called MacVP.
Shout out Tony Azar.
Yeah, he's the man.
Sean
Tony
talks
and
about you
John.
all the time. He
Yeah.
has never mentioned your name. He just chose the platform now to mention it for some reason, so shout out.
Yeah, John Azar, his brother, is also my mentor. But these guys, when I was looking for a mentor, just to try and make it as quickly as possible here, I didn't like all these different programs and masterminds. I wanted a true old school one-on-one mentor.
Love that.
We interviewed John Azar on our podcast years ago, told him our troubles and like, yeah, man, we're looking for a mentor. And all these guys, it's like 30 people in the mentor group.
And you have the coach who has been coached by the other coach.
Exactly. You get 1 hour with them on Wednesdays, whatever. And he said, you know what, I'll talk to my brother and maybe we'd be interested in doing one-on-one with you guys. And ultimately we did. And that was just life-changing because they're not only mentoring us, but they did deals with us. And when they did deals with us, they invested millions of dollars into those deals. So now that just made it so much easier to raise capital, obviously, because now we have partners that are investing
You have
millions. Strength. They've got thousands
Experience.
of units. Yeah, they own their own property management company. So that completely changed my life and allowed us to do bigger projects. And then the second opportunity that is really amazing that I can't believe happened is we met with this guy, Mike Turk, a local developer, it's Katy Development. And
Shout out Mike Turk and Katie Development.
yeah, those guys are great, and they've invited us to partner with them on some new projects, which I think is going to be another really pivotal point for us here in San Diego. So I think that, in summary, meeting other really successful people that have been, gracious enough to help us out and partner with us on projects, and it's really kind of transformed my business.
Love that, dude. And so, yeah, man, the mentors are huge. I love your version of that because a guy like me is very similar. It's difficult to find the right mentor.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to find someone that understands the balance between what your value is and what their value is, and doesn't want to eat all your lunch, wants to help you, but wants to make sure that they eat too, and vice versa. Because I think that there can be greed on both sides. When you get into a place where you become a mentor, someone brings you a deal, etc., and it's like, okay, I'm going to eat this guy's lunch. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And then inversely, someone that's like, okay, I'm going to bring you a deal, but I don't want you to take half the bottom line or the commission or whatever. That's wrong too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very unique and valuable when you find the right relationship that's symbiotic, someone that's really coming to the table and say, dude, I'm going to do whatever it takes to bring value to you, Mr. Mentor Guy. I'm going to go find deals. I'm going to go find capital. You lead the way. I'm going. And then on the other side, a guy that's not like, I'm going to eat your lunch, and then vice versa. So that's amazing, dude.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that. So hey guys, shout out. So many people come on this podcast and talk about mentorship. Sean's story, I think, is unique because he's being very specific about it. So take that, probably clip that and put it out. Let's talk about understanding. What is the one thing you wish you'd understood earlier in your career, Sean?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Like, off the top of my head, the first thing that comes to mind is needing to be well capitalized for a deal, because every single real estate deal you're going to do, there's going to be something that kicks your ass. There's going to be something you aren't expected every single time, without fail.
Miscellaneous line item, dude.
Yeah, so
You learned that the hard way, bro.
I learned it the hard way.
Everyone does.
So, having sufficient contingency capital, I think, is one of the lessons that I learned early on in my career. The first project I ever did was a 32 unit. We completely emptied out my 401k in order to invest in this project. It was a JV deal, joint venture. And we ended up running out of money midway through the project because there was all these unexpected expenses, pipes that had to be replaced, had to jackhammer up the parking lot.
What happened to this pro forma, dude? We were going to be rich off this deal. What is going on here?
Yeah, all you do, man, is you renovate the units, you increase the rents,
so
and
easy,
then
bro.
you're rich.
So easy.
And it didn't work out that way. But luckily, it didn't work out that way in the sense that we had issues and we had to borrow more money in order to finish the project. But we ended up tripling our money, 2.9xing our money in just 2.5 years. So
buy right, guys. You have to buy right. And I talked about that all the time. For me, it's real estate 101. The cheaper you get the property, away from the value of the property, the more space you have to learn. And in Sean's case, in this first deal, make mistakes, gain experience, learn, and get better. But if you buy it at market or over market because you're itching to get a deal, now you don't have that space. And that deal probably doesn't pencil in the end.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Awesome. Okay, so understanding that you need contingencies, understand that, hey, look, things are going to go wrong. Hey, understand that I can't account for every single thing that's always going to happen. I have the way I am going to account for that. I'm going to put this number aside. This is going to be where we pull money from, capital from, to handle those things, the unknowns that we're accounting for.
Exactly. And I would say as a minimum 10% contingency on whatever your plan is as an absolute minimum. And 15 to 20%, you get more and more conservative. But that'd be my advice to you if you're looking for some kind of a number to go off of.
Yeah, 10% is pretty much industry standard. So that's Sean's view. That's his understanding. We skipped C. Communication. What's your most important communication tip, Sean?
Most important communication tip. This is a good one, and I would say I'm just going to go to communicating with investors. And essentially, I would recommend if you're going to have investors in on your projects, you cannot over communicate. Don't worry about over communicating. And what I mean by that is updating your investors monthly on everything that's going on.
Are you using apps for that? Using text messages? Using lunches? All the above?
I use lunches a lot, yes, but we definitely have our email campaign. So we send out monthly asset updates to our investors that'll include basic things like occupancy, current NOI, every like quarter we'll like look at, okay, here's our NOI now versus what we projected, or here's our rents versus what we projected. We'll kind of compare it to our underwriting, updating them on just about, we'll even do video updates along with the text and the email. So there'll be a video you can click on, and it's me and my business partner Mike talking about the project, where we're at, some issues we might have had, how we resolved them, things like that. So I think communicating as much as possible to investors goes a really long way, because at the end of the day, like when people are giving you their money, just imagine you wired $100,000, then you don't get like very much communication. You're just wondering like, man, what the hell is going on with my money? You just want to be, if you're an investor, you want to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. So I think just keeping that in mind is important.
Love it. Communicate, over communicate, tell the people what's happening with their money, problems, challenges, things that are arising, returns comparatively what you told them they were going to be, things that are looking, how things are looking in the market, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And being anticipatory, etc., etc.
Yep.
I love it. Success is the S. We got that one in the right place. To what do you attribute your success thus far in your career, Sean?
Man, I could go a lot of directions with that. I would attribute most of it to having great mentors, which I know I mentioned my mentors before, but I mean, really at the end of the day, there's no way I would have been able to raise all that money from investors. And even if I did, it would have been a lot riskier without having mentorship to guide us with these bigger properties, man. So I'm going to say that answer one more time. Definitely mentors.
Mentors, guys. Sean's leaning in on mentors. I've leaned in over and over and over on mentors. People want to help you if you find the right people. They really do. There are people out there that will help you. But look, you got to be out there getting after it yourself. Okay? No one's going to do the work for you. In fact, mentors are very busy usually. The people's time you want have the least amount of time. So you got to be bringing something to the table and be honest about that as well. You've raised millions of dollars for multiple deals. Tell me kind of how that process started for you, how it is going now, kind of what you learned along the way, and things maybe that, some upside and some downside to it.
So raising capital from investors is a full-time job, I think, first and foremost. And I learned that over time, that the best time to be raising capital is when you don't need to be raising capital, so you don't have a deal.
Similar to getting a loan.
Similar to getting a loan at a bank. A great quote that I think everybody should remember is, don't never have lunch alone. And what you should take from that quote is, you should be meeting with potential investors often. You need to be friends with these people. Like, you need to build trust. So inviting them out to lunch or dinner or go to events, or, if you're buddies with them, go for a hike, whatever it is, like go do something fun. Constantly be around these people. You don't put a potential investor on your list and then let that lead go cold. You don't talk to them for 6 months and then email them with a deal.
Cultivate the relationship.
Cultivate the relationship.
Before you have the money, while you have the money, and after you have the money.
Exactly. Constantly going to events, constantly, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, whatever it is, just be out and about as much as you can. And that is also going to help you get referrals. But when it comes to raising capital, there's so much to it. I could go on and on and on about like the first steps and, how to raise capital, your pitch deck and everything. But one of the first things coming to mind is when you're raising capital, let's say you're getting to the point where it's like, okay, I've got these investors, I've got a deal. And you need to make, otherwise known as a pitch deck, about your deal. One of the best things I've learned along the way, through trial and error and being in masterminds, talking to other professionals, is telling the story of the deal. And you and I have talked about this before.
Your system's amazing. It's one of the best, honestly, I've ever seen, dude.
Thanks.
Really.
And you're about to see it go live in about a month, by the way, so I can't wait for you to follow along and see how it goes.
New deal coming from Sean's team.
Oh, thanks, man. So basically, what I mean by that when telling the story, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I've made mistakes when I was making pitches to investors and holding webinars, and I'm over here assuming that all of these people know what the hell I'm talking about when I'm talking about cap rates, cash on cash returns and stuff. A lot of people don't. And for sure, there's more sophisticated investors that listen to Bigger Pockets and your podcast and stuff like that and might have learned a lot of this
kind
stuff.
Of you.
But there's a lot of investors out there that are a dentist or a doctor or something like that, and they're not obsessed with real estate like you. And you have to keep that in mind when you're pitching to investors. And another great piece of advice is people buy with emotions and justify it with the numbers. And so you need to go in that order, in my opinion, what I've learned when you're pitching projects to people. So, for example, when I'm talking about, well, what's the story of the deal? Every deal has a story, whether it's how you bought the property and got it for well under its value. How did you find that seller? How did you negotiate with them in order to get such a good deal? Something like that would be phenomenal. So I'll tell you like what I'm using as the biggest part of the story on our new project, which is a 20 unit that's on the border of Sunset Cliffs and Ocean Beach. This is the first, or the one of 7 new apartment complexes built in Ocean Beach or Sunset Cliffs in the past 30 years. And it's the largest apartment complex built there in 50 years. It's one of the only apartments that you can get that has in-unit washer and dryer, air conditioning and heating, and parking.
You're buying this already built?
No, we start construction in October.
Got it.
We already got the coastal development permit. The building permits are going to be issued in just a couple of weeks.
And you do like the beach?
I love it.
We're going to get into San Diego as a location and a market here pretty soon, but let's follow up on, so telling the story is where you were at, and the reason how you're doing it and why you're doing it.
Exactly. And really, you've got to lean in on what's most compelling about the deal. Like, if you're going to sit there and brainstorm, what is most compelling about this project? What makes it so unique? Because everybody knows, like, okay, yeah, you got a value add, multifamily, whatever it is, okay, great. But you've got to make it exciting. You've got to draw in their emotions and go, oh, wait a minute. That's how rare apartments are and new apartments are in OB. I had no idea.
What is making me want to invest my money with you, Sean, and your team? What about this property is cool that when I'm on the golf course, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm invested in this property because of this thing?
Oh my goodness. That is great that you just brought that up, because that really ties into the emotion part. What are people going to go tell their friends about when they invest in this deal? They invest $100,000. They're on the golf course. Like, yeah, man, I just invested in this new apartment complex over in Sunset Cliffs. It's the only new apartment complex built in the last 50 years that's that big.
Ever heard of Sunset Cliffs? Ever heard of Ocean Beach in San Diego?
Yeah, this is 800 feet from Sunset Cliffs.
Love it.
Just, things like that. So I think that, some of the biggest lessons I've learned are really focusing on the excitement of the deal and what makes it so compelling. And then obviously you are going to get into the numbers. But, I think that that's something to focus on. I think...
Done 506C.
Yes.
You've done 506B.
Mm-hmm.
He already talked about his mentors. So guys, his mentors they're affluent, they're sophisticated. Raising capital was new for Sean. He leaned on his mentors to be able to get into this space, understand it more. And then now he's raising capital through proper syndications for large deals, multiple deals that he's done and is doing. But he has a process for it. Talk a little bit about your process. You talked about videos. You talked about communicating with your investors, building and cultivating those relationships all the way through, sending out data to them on a regular basis so they understand what's happening with their capital, what's happening with the deal. But can you kind of tell me a little bit about your process? Because we did talk about it, and it's amazing. And it's good coming up again here. He has a deal coming up down the line here in about a month.
I'll go through the whole process because you and I talked about it offline, but yeah, I'm sure the listeners want to hear. So the process starts with hyping up the project with videos. They're going to go out to our investors, announcing the project and announcing when the webinar is going to be. So we always create 4 or more marketing videos, and these are highly edited, well edited. I mean, good production. We pay a videographer.
Shout out Limitless.
Yeah, they're amazing. They take us out with, we get drone shots of the site and show off its location. We are talking in front of the project and we'll say, hey, this is, Ocean Beach and Sunset Cliffs, and this is the site of our new investment opportunity, a 20-unit new construction project.
So you take the time to hire the marketing crew, go out to the site, start doing drone shots, creating that story visually that your investors are going to be able to follow along, and you're explaining to them, hey, this is where it's at, this is what it looks like, this is what it will look like.
Exactly. And we blast that to our email list of investors. We have over 1,000 investors. We blast that out to every single one of them in an email and say, hey, investment webinar is August 1st or whatever it is. Click this button to register for the webinar. And we'll basically parse out multiple videos leading up to the webinar. So all those videos, one might be announcing the video. The next video we'll post on my Instagram and out via email maybe 2 or 3 days later that's highlighting the architect or something, and then another one highlighting our partners and their experience. And so we're trying to answer some questions that might be going through investors' head before they even step into that investment webinar, and also hyping them up to make sure that they don't want to miss that webinar. So you really got to build up excitement and get as many people as possible to attend the webinar. And the importance of doing a webinar, by the way, having people register for it, is you now have a record of everyone that went to that webinar. Those are warm leads. Those are people that are at least somewhat interested.
Well,
in
it takes the time to be there.
Right. And now you have all of their email addresses, because that's what they have to type in to register, so that you can then send the rest of your marketing material to them and hyper focus on them after the webinar. And this is important too, because you don't want to be blowing people up with emails if they're not interested in the deal.
Right.
If they're not going to your webinar, if they're not clicking to actually open up the emails about the deal, leave them alone. You don't want to be spamming.
What program are you using, Sean, to track click rate?
Active Campaign.
Active Campaign. And then what are you using for your investors? There's Avestor, there's a bunch of sort of
Appfolio.
Appfolio.
We use Appfolio for our investor portal. So we've got like a nice sexy portal with an app where investors are able to log in, see the details of the investment. It's really easy for them to click a button and ACH their investment when the time comes and things like that. So we like using Appfolio, but like a lot of them out there are great.
So those are the tools he's using, guys, to track. And then when you have the webinar, you are presenting, you told me that you practice, you told me that you go over it, you told me that you've had friends and family walk through it. Hey, how can I get better? How can I get better? It's really interesting because I told you when I was out knocking doors, I had the same thing. Like, I wanted to get the door slammed in my face. I wanted to walk through that as quickly as I could. I wanted to work on my tone, my body language, all of those things, where I'm inflecting my voice, etc., because selling or explaining something, getting someone to go from no, maybe to yes is a skill.
Yes.
And you can get better at that skill by practicing that skill.
Exactly.
If someone's on the fence between deal A in Dallas, Texas, that Grant Cardone's putting out, whether I should invest with Sean D. Martel in a new construction project by the beach in San Diego, your skill that you've put in, your practice, might be the thing that gets them over the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
And we want you to invest your money with Sean. No offense to Grant Cardone.
You're the man. Thank you so much, Jonathan. But yeah, I always practice multiple times. Do it like almost just like a NFL quarterback is going to then review their tape and they film themselves, right? I would record me and my business partner as literally doing the speech or doing the spiel and the investment pitch without anyone on there.
Presentation.
And then, we'll sit there, go through the presentation, record it, then go back, watch the recording, give each other tips, say, oh man, I think that you're talking way too fast through this section, or you really need to emphasize this a little bit more, or slow down, whatever it is. And that's another tip, actually. I put a sign up above my computer screen when I'm doing the webinar that says slow down.
Love it.
Because you need to go talk a little bit slower when you're going through the slides, emphasizing certain points. I'm also just a fast talker.
Do you go? Yeah. Same here. Do you go? I think that's why you're like, we're on. Let's go.
Yeah.
Do you break down common terms, cash on cash, NOI? Do you assume that Mr. Doctor or Mr. Attorney knows what that means? Do you have a drip campaign that when you put out content monthly on your email that you're explaining some of this stuff, or do you kind of just go through it, story first, numbers, and then just make common assumptions? Or I know a lot of capital raising, and really what it comes down to, Sean, is that one executive summary page. How much money? What's this thing going to be? How long am I going to hold my money? What's the chance that I'm going to lose my money? How much money am I getting back?
Exactly, and we do. So we'll explain some terms. When we put the terms out, the best way we do is we show a hypothetical investment table. So because that's the best way for people to understand. So, here's the returns, here's all the different return metrics. And then the next slide will say, here's a hypothetical $100,000 investment. So if we're projecting, 6% annualized cash on cash return, that means this year, year one's $6,000 in cash flow, year two, $6,000. And then, if we sell in year three, this is how much we're projecting you'd get from sales proceeds. Here's the total that you're going to get back. So that they can visualize and go, oh, okay, I understand how these returns work now, or what that would actually mean relative to my money. So we like to do a $50,000 and a $100,000 hypothetical investment. And additionally, though, for the people that, because there are going to be a couple, sometimes there's usually just a couple more sophisticated investors that are in the industry and understand it deeply that want to know more about the underwriting, we create an underwriting walkthrough video. So that we can send that to everybody afterwards, so that on their own time, it could be 30 minutes long of just here's how we
very detail oriented, really under the hood.
So here's our assumptions, here's why we came up with the assumptions, here's how we've stress tested it. If you're interested, now that you know our assumptions, if you're sophisticated enough, you can go stress test it yourself and come up with your own assumptions if you like.
Love it.
So yeah, we have that option for them, and we always open it up to questions at the end. And if somebody has questions about the returns, we can expound upon that more.
And then just to move it along a bit, after you do a follow-up, you do additional follow-up touch points, you open yourself up to conversations after, and then usually it's a week or two after the webinar, the capital has to be in. You're usually fully subscribed really quickly. Sometimes there's people lingering about, and then generally you're oversubscribed. Once the deal's gone, it's gone. And a guy like you, which took a long time for me to understand, it's valuable to get my money in because you're really getting after it. You're really growing your skill set. You're really analyzing the properties. You're really digging in deep to find really good deal flow. But you only have so much time in a day, right?
Yeah.
You're going to protect my capital, but there's only so many Sean's.
Yeah.
So I want to put my capital with you quickly before that opportunity's gone because you can only buy and operate so many deals in a day or in a year.
Yeah. So last year we did one deal. This is our second deal this year and probably our last deal this year. But going to your point, to deep into just to explain a little bit more of the process, after that webinar, we usually have a week to 2 weeks before the money, you can actually even sign up actually. And the reason why we do that is because we've done it to where all right, webinar's done, you could sign up as soon as you want, first come, first serve for the investment. And there's a lot of people that give us feedback and said, well, dude, you just gave me 40 pages of legal documents. I want some time to review this.
Sure.
I feel rushed and your investment filled up quick. I want to invest with you guys, but I need some time. So we took that feedback and said, okay, from now on, we say hey, on this date, the investment opens at 12 noon. It's first come, first serve. Here's all the legal documents. Take time to talk with your CPA, with your attorney, with your family, and come up with your decision. Everyone has the same amount of time. It's fair for everybody. This is when it opens. And that's worked really well for us. People respect that. And the past 3 projects we did all filled up within hours.
And what was the total amount raised in those 3 projects?
So the last project was $2.8 million. That filled up in 11 hours.
2.8 million in 11 hours.
The project before that was 1.1 million. That filled up in 3 hours.
1.1 million in 3 hours.
And then we had 1.6 million that filled up same day. I can't, because that was a couple of years ago. I can't remember how many hours, but it was the same day.
Love it. All right, let's segue. That's tremendous. Thank you for sharing, Sean. Capital raising. Huge opportunity for people in this space. I think it's a transition from generally a real estate guy to the next level. And your process, I've seen a lot of these, is awesome. So well done, brother. Operator, GP, why operator, why GP, why do you want to control the process? And we can kind of link that in, Sean, also why you don't generally invest as an LP. What are the pros and cons in your opinion? And why have you chosen this route essentially for your career?
Really at the end of the day, it's because I want to be involved and know all the ins and outs of any project. And if you want to, reach if you have the goals like I have and want to reach the kind of wealth that I have, you have to be if you're coming from means like me, you're going to need to raise capital and be a sponsor in order to reach those goals and reach the kind of financial freedom I'm looking for.
Just keep smashing those duplexes like the one you have in Claremont, bro.
Dude, yeah, I wish I had 10 of those in PE, But at the end of the day, it's because I want to grow my wealth quicker. And sure, I could have invested as just an LP, but, and for a lot of people, that's going to make sense. If you're a doctor, if you're an attorney, if you're somebody with a high stress, high octane job, you don't have the time to be a general partner. I don't think you have the time to be a general partner and grow a business like this if you have any kind of a job. I used to be an air traffic controller and I quit my job to go full time on this. So I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to grow a company, a firm that's a respected firm in San Diego, a respected boutique real estate investment firm. That's why I wanted to go general partner. So that's a lot of the pros. Obviously, you can make more money that way. You can grow a business that you can pass on to your family. And as an LP, the pros are you don't have to do all of that. There's a lot to learn if you want to be a general partner for apartment complexes. It never stops. And it's a constantly evolving industry, constantly evolving market. You have to study it, have your finger on the pulse. You're constantly talking to lenders, brokers, multiple brokers.
Contractors, the city.
Yeah. And so you've got to be in the game 24/7 in order to be successful. So I think if you can't do that, then a limited partner is more for you.
Question, acquisition fees, we talked about that.
Yeah.
How do you justify acquisition fees in your opinion, Sean? Based on what you're telling me, obviously as a GP, as an operator, you are out in the trenches every day. You are doing your due diligence on these deals. You are building relationships with brokers and wholesalers and sellers, directly bird dogging yourself to do this work. You're learning all this stuff. You're reading about code. You're going to meetups. You're doing the entire thing, the lenders, all of this stuff. And you're doing this as a full-time job. This was a conversation that I came to you and asked about because it was something that's been a challenge for me. When did you cross over being like, hey guys, this is what we're charging for acquisition fees because we've got to keep the lights on, and we are going to be investing in this deal or not investing in this deal, but this is an opportunity for you to invest. These are your returns, but this is baked in. And what is that like? How did you turn that corner? And then can you explain it to me and the listeners?
So there's a lot of justifications for it. And I understand how somebody that maybe isn't in the industry and hasn't actually raised capital for an apartment complex might question it and say, well, what are you doing to earn this acquisition fee? It's like $200,000 or $300,000 are split in between your partners. First of all, there is an enormous amount of work that goes into just putting that deal together. And then the way we structure our deals is, yes, we get an acquisition fee, but we don't make any money until the deal sells.
You have created, Sean, investment opportunity.
Correct.
No one is giving you money. You have worked to create an investment opportunity to create a return for your investors and yourself by doing this work. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want that to be explained because I think sometimes people get confused when you say, dude, it's $100,000 to get on this deal. You're not giving me $100,000. I've worked really hard to create this opportunity for you to invest $100,000 and to make return, or you can have that money sit in the bank or invest it with someone else, and potentially things could not go as great.
Exactly. There's hundreds and hundreds of hours that go into looking for deals. I mean, we might look at 50 deals, 3 of them, 4, 5 of them are worth even making an offer on. Maybe one gets accepted. We're the ones that are putting in tons of legwork for that. In addition to that, we're taking on more risk in many ways. So for example, as a sponsor on these projects, we have to sign on the loans. Now, as a limited partner, you're limited in your risk to just the money that you've invested. If you've invested $50,000, you're not going to lose more than $50,000 if everything goes to shit, and you're limited on your liability, etc. When we are signing on to these loans as general partners, these are recourse loans. Now, there are things called non-recourse loans with agency debt that you can typically get for value add deals and stuff like that, but we're not getting those loans. These are recourse loans. Now, if you don't know what that means, that literally means if this deal goes to crap and we owe the bank another $1 million, the bank can make me sell all my other possessions. They can make me sell my personal house in order to come up with the money. I'm putting everything on the line. So, and I'm also investing in the deals as an LP. So I'll lose money if the deal goes south, but I'm also going to lose my shirt.
Not to mention your time, your reputation.
Correct.
No one who's really getting after it and has goals like you do, and I do, wants to be investing my time into something that's a loser.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to invest in something that's a winner. And so you're taking all this time to do this due diligence. You're taking all this time to build these relationships. But at the end of the day, you have to pay your bills for that time.
Correct. Yeah. We have staff. We have administration staff. You need a lot to make these deals happen. There's a lot of expensive software. Just CoStar alone, just so we can get data, is $1,500 a month.